Uncle Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
You and I think we include Dan in this, we celebrate pretty much everything.
We're a celebratory crew.
Yeah, we're a celebratory crew. I keep cases of champagne on hand in case, it's something on either the Julian calendar or one of the other calendars comes up.
Well, everybody knows about my famous Arbor Day blowouts.
Oh, yes, when we chop down all the trees in your neighbor's yards.
My Arbor Day bonfires.
Yeah. But I think Dan has special holidays he likes to celebrate.
Well, interestingly, we just passed a holiday, and we here on the show made absolutely no mention of it last week. And in this, the worst possible timeline, I'm guessing that, like me, many of our listeners did little to nothing to celebrate. Mid-February can be a bit weird for some, and I don't blame them. By the way, do you guys know why this month is called February?
I do.
Oh, okay, well, put a pin in it.
Yeah. We actually talked about this in one of our episodes, but yes, I won't say anything.
Put a pin.
Yeah.
First, let's talk about the big holiday. Let's go back to Rome, 3rd century. No, not that 3rd century, though. 3rd century BCE. Oh, sorry. Did you think I was going to be talking about St. Valentine? You stupid uncles. Today, we're discussing the holiday that used to be celebrated mid-February, which, in the fine Christian tradition, was subsumed by a far more boring celebration. Today, we're going to talk about Lupercalia.
Oh.
From the song, Lupercalia, No, Lupercalia. The reason I want to go back to the 3rd century BCE is that's where we get the earliest written account of the story of the founding of Rome. I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but let's start with Remus and Romulus. As the story goes, and I'm sure that when you hear it, you'll agree that it must be 100% true, Romulus and Remus were born in a kingdom called Alba Longa, in what we now call Italy, sometime in around 750 BCE. Now, their mother, Rhea Silvia, also known as Elia, though I don't know why, was the daughter of King Numitor, who had been knocked off the hill by his brother Amulius, so he was king now. Now, Rhea Silvia was a priestess to the goddess Vesta, known as the Vestal Virgins, but she seems to have lost that title when she was visited by the god Mars in a grove dedicated to him. She became pregnant, which really pissed off Amulius and knocked her off of that Vestal Virgin pedestal. She pissed off Amulius mainly because any sons she had might be considered to have rightful claim to his throne. So, when she delivered twin boys, he commanded that they would be drowned in the Tiber River. Now, Tiberinus, anyway, the god of the river, saved the boys and dumped them on a bank right in the middle of modern Rome. There wasn't really anything there at the time. Then a she-wolf found them and took them to a cave in a hill and suckled them to keep them alive. As you know, wolves are notoriously kind to helpless little creatures.
Yes, it's a fantastic image, the she-wolf, the famous Roman she-wolf of the Republic.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Then a shepherd found them and raised them, and a bunch of stuff happened, and they decided to found a city together, but argued over where to start. Romulus wanted to start the city on the hill where the cave was, where their wolf mom took care of them. Remus wanted to start on a different hill. I don't know why you have to start a city on a hill, but you do. And Romulus killed Remus, and boom, Rome. Anyhow, that cave, in what is now called Palatine Hill, or Palatino if you're Italian, that's at the center of Rome. That cave was known as the Lupercal, from the Latin lupa, meaning female wolf. The Lupercal, as you might have guessed, was the center of the celebration of Lupercalia. So, what was this delightful holiday all about? Well, it seems to have started as a series of purification rituals. The second month of the Roman calendar was apparently a time of purification. It was named after Februa, the plural of februum, which was anything, a februa was anything, or a februum was anything used to ritually purify. So purify what? Well, houses, fields, buildings, but mostly people. If you had any sins in you, you needed a way to cleanse them out, and that's where the februa come in.
It was kind of Roman sober January, right? Just gotta do your juice cleanse.
The opposite of that.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah. So in the second month of the year, there was a festival of Februa. But by far the most popular part of Februa and what later became the only part that anybody cared about was Lupercalia, which took the idea of purification and really ran with it. Naked, through the streets. We'll get there. On the 15th of February, a group of strapping young priests known as the Luperci, which roughly translates to Brothers of the Wolf, or, I don't know, wolf monks, something like that. They would go into the Lupercal to make a sacrifice. Sacrifice to whom? Fuck you, that's to whom, because we don't actually know for sure. It may have been to the god Faunus, who is the Roman equivalent of the Greek Pan, or to Inuus, who may have been a version of Faunus, but was all about the sexy time. Or maybe even a wolf goddess called Luperca, but that one seems most spurious. Whoever it was to, it was a weird sacrifice. Now, normally for a sacrifice, you would kill a commonly eaten animal like a pig or a bull or a lamb. For Lupercalia, the Luperci would sacrifice one or more goats and, brace yourselves, all you sensitive folks, a dog. Then the two of the young Luperci would be chosen, and goat's blood would be smeared on their foreheads with a knife, and then someone would dip some wool into some milk and clean that blood off, and they'd all have a good laugh. No, really, that was part of the ritual. They had to laugh. I have no explanation for that, but it seemed like it was pretty important.
It's so funny how cultures, something starts, and then maybe, a few hundred years later, you're like, I have no idea why we do this, but we do it.
Exactly. Exactly. But yes, it became very important that the guys had to laugh after the blood was cleaned off of their face. After the sacrifice, everybody in town has a feast. And if you know anything about Roman feasting, you know that wine was involved, and likely not a small amount of wine, which may be why the next tradition developed. Luperci would skin the goats, cut the skin into thin strips, which almost all the articles and papers that I read about this insisted on calling thongs. And then these groups of young priests would run naked through the streets of Rome, whipping any woman they saw with the fresh-cut goat flesh. Fun, right?
Hold on. What day does this occur? I've got to put something in my calendar.
Right?
I mean, not the whipping the women, the other bit, but...
Yeah. Well, and the question then becomes, why whip women? Well, this purification ritual was aimed at fertility. Idiots in ancient Rome had no idea that men could be infertile too, so it was all about those ladies. And the women were into it, apparently. If a woman wanted to get preggers, she made sure to be out there ready for her whipping. It may have been that the women stripped down, too, to expose their flesh for the whip. Or maybe just because they were drunk and public nudity is fun.
Hang on, what day is this?
Yeah, it's the 15th. 15th. Just, I
think we're going to have a meetup next year in Rome on the 15th.
We're bringing it back. Now, even women who were already pregnant would present themselves to be whipped because it was thought that it would make for an easier delivery. Or maybe she just liked being whipped by a naked young man. Could have something to do with that, too,
we're not kink shaming. Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So those goat thongs, by the way, were februa. They were used for cleansing and purification. So when you think of February, think of drunken naked goat whipping.
Always
there
do. Always
and
do.
done.
I hope you do.
When I'm in the Hallmark store, I'm like, where is that card? There.
It's named after it, for God's
That's right.
sake. There was also traditional Lupercalia key parties. That's not the official title for the event, but men, presumably single men, would all get together and randomly choose the name of one of the presumably single women out of a jar, and those two would pair up for the day. Because you never know. Maybe a random jar meeting on Naked Whip Day will lead to the love of your life. Now, Lupercalia was pretty long-lasting and a prominent celebration. It was on Lupercalia in 44 BCE when Mark Antony, who apparently was a grand poobah of the Luperci himself, tried to present Julius Caesar with a crown. This was almost certainly just a bit of political theater, but man, when Caesar turned that crown down, saying that Jupiter was the only king of Rome, the crowd went apeshit. They loved it.
Oh.
Now, it's interesting. I am very familiar with Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, and this may come back later in the show. I've never been in a production of it, though.
Oh.
But I've read and seen it many, many times. And interestingly, the first scenes of the play take place on Lupercalia. There's a moment where Caesar actually mentions Antony doing the run, that Luperci run. I always breezed past it. I would read a quick footnote that it was a reference to some ancient Roman holiday, but I never knew what it was.
Huh.
Caesar actually tells his wife Calpurnia to stand directly in Antony's path as he runs and commands Antony to make sure to whip her, and actually in the Shakespeare it says touch her, but now that I know what it was all about, he was telling him to whip her.
Right.
Why have I never seen a production where Antony and a bunch of other dudes run around naked whipping ladies? I feel ripped off.
Royal Shakespeare Company, get on this.
RSC, come on. Yeah, you already did the one that was set in modern Africa. Now let's go back to Rome and do some naked whipping. So there is some disagreement between sources on what became of Lupercalia. At one point, it seems to have gotten out of hand. I read about a mosaic that was depicting two men holding down a naked woman while a third gleefully whips her thighs. She did not seem to be enjoying herself, so that's not good.
That's called the full gates.
Yeah, that's called the Trump times. But this tradition lasted a long time. It wasn't until the turn of the 6th century CE that a pope finally put the kibosh on it.
Really?
By then, it seems to have gotten a lot tamer, of course. Everybody was clothed. Ladies were just holding out their hands for a gentle whipping. It was a lot more boring. Nevertheless, Pope Gelasius I decided that...
Gelasius. I didn't even know about that pope.
Yeah, apparently there were two of them. Decided that enough was enough. The locals, including the bigwigs, were pissed. So this was almost 2 centuries after Rome became a Christian state, and every pope before him had allowed Lupercalia. But he argued that you can't just stamp out all of the heathen fun at once. You have to slowly torture it to death, and this was the final gurgle. He even mentioned that if the governors were so fond of the holiday, why didn't they run around naked like back in the olden days? So apparently, this was not an invitation to go have more fun, which is how I would have taken that. Like, oh, you Pope, you say we can go run around naked like the olden days?
Yeah, it's a command from the Pope. What are you going to do?
It was instead, it was a way of pointing out that they weren't doing it right anyway because they knew in their hearts that prudishness was the best. And thus, in the year 494, it died, sort of, officially. And then, 2 years later, 496, Pope Gelatinus officially established February 14th, the day before Lupercalia, as the feast day in honor of a guy who died way back in the year 269. Now, there's no evidence to say that he did that directly in order to subsume the celebration of Lupercalia, but it's likely that if everybody feasted St. Valentine on the 14th, they weren't likely to feast again the next day. It's just too much feasting.
Okay, so gelatinous.
No, that was a joke.
Okay.
The name, the actual name is like that.
Okay.
Where is it?
It's Jellyneck, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Jellyneck.
If you don't count the Avignon popes, there have been like 300 or something. So it's hard to know all their names.
I think it says
It's
something
hard-
about
it's hard to
naming
know.
popes that I thought gelatinous was probably a true name.
Well, especially because you choose your own.
Exactly.
It was Gelasius.
Okay.
So I just said gelatinous because that's a funnier
You
word.
got me.
Boom.
It's just
All right.
Italian for gelatinous. Everybody
Yeah,
knows that.
exactly. So there you go. Another fun holiday is steamrolled by a less fun holiday. Now, unlike Christmas and Easter, not much of Lupercalia made it through to how we celebrate Valentine's Day. It's possible that some of the purification rituals actually transferred to the Feast of the Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary, also known as Candlemas. That happens on February 2nd. It's also possible that things like, the colors red and white, which are commonly associated with Valentine's Day, came from the blood on the forehead and the milk-soaked wool. But all of that is just speculation.
Kind of speculative.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, fellas, next year, if you space it and forget to get your girl something nice for Valentine's Day, instead of panicking, just give her a knowing wink and say, "Just you wait." And then the next day, get naked and whip her.
Whip her with a fresh piece of ghastly, bloody goatskin.
I feel
Yes.
like February 22nd or whatever it is, the day after of 2022, I'm going to be talking to HR.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, when we talked about Moloch way back, the Canaanite god that children were sacrificed in, that they
Right.
threw babies into. I can't remember the exact connection to Februa, but I think that part of it might they replaced the actual sacrifice of children with people running, either jumping over or running between two fires as part of the purification thing.
oh, there you go.
So I think that was probably a saner choice.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So
Well,
excellent.
there you go.
There you
Go
go.
out and
I didn't know
celebrate your
anything about that.
Lupercalia.
Oh, and also I think our Satanist friends celebrate Lupercapria. I do.
Chupacabra?
I think it's kind of a on the Satanist calendar as kind of a hedonist holiday.
Yeah, why not? It's
Why
fun.
not? So there you go.
All right.
Always get permission to whip somebody. Let's move on.
Let's do it.